A lot of y'all see me using this to pick up trash, or other people using very similar rigs, and you're like, you're not familiar with RC stuff, and you have no idea how to make one of these. Well, I'm going to give you the basics on making a simple rig. Now, keep in mind that this rig that you see here is pretty heavily modified. I mean, that's obviously different tires and all that stuff. But I'm going to give you the basics, and then down the road, if you want to modify it, you always can. That's one of the great things about hobby grade RC cars. Modifications are always out there. Anyway, the first thing you're going to need is one of these. Now this is the Axial SCX6. This is what the orange rig is built on. This is what all the version 14s that you see on like Reddit or Instagram, they're all built on one of these. This is the best RC car that I have found for building one of these rigs. So first thing you're going to need is this. Now when you go and you buy this from a hobby store or online, you need a charger. I would recommend 2 batteries, one to get there and one to get back. Now, when you get it opened up, this is what you get. You get, obviously, the RC car and the remote control. And the important thing on the remote is this right here. This is something that you don't normally find on just stock RC cars, and it is a thumb control. So when you're out picking up trash, being able to drive it with one hand is a must, so the other hand can have the grabber. As far as the car goes, if you use the Jeep version of this, then if you want to keep it looking relatively stock, you can. You can very easily take something like a tote and just screw it to the top of there, just like that. And then, take it off if you're not using it. That way you still have a toy to play with or whatever you want. But I will go into more depth on how to make the more elaborate modification that you see with the version 14. But yeah, this is the car to use if you're going to build one, because that'll go just about anywhere you want, just like that. When you get the body off, you can really see the other things that kind of make it so great for doing this kind of stuff. One, you have a very durable transmission. My stock rig, my version 14, is using the stock tranny, and it has around 400 miles on it. You've got a good large brushless motor that has a decent ESC in here. It is already pretty good for this. But if you want to modify it similar to the version 14s, the important thing you see in here are these. On a lot of the smaller RCs, you have body posts. The body actually mounts in these little holes right here, and I'm pretty sure those are just a holdover for that. But what these let you do is you can put bolts in there. So we're going to put some 1/4-20 bolts in there with some big flat washers, and then we can screw the tub right on the top. Alright, just got back from the hardware store. Now, I got 2-inch 1/4-20 bolts here and extra nuts. And this fits pretty good. You could probably go one size bigger, but this 1/4-20 fits in this hole and lets you put that in there. You have enough play that you can actually get these into these mounts without having to take this actual mount off. And as far as this, why we have 3 nuts on here, this stupid cover for the ESC is just tall. So if you get rid of that, if you take that off of there, then you can probably go down to 1 nut. Although I would advise to remove these cables so that you don't accidentally pinch them, because right now they're going through the hole, and if you go way down there, then you're going to put a lot of strain on those. So, take this piece off, unplug those, and pull those out, and then you can go way down. But aside from that, you put some good fender washers on here to help spread out the weight of the rig, whatever you're going to use. And you just measure the center of these from here to here and from there to there, and then you drill the appropriate holes in your bin. Now, I'm using my old LItterbuggie box here, but my measurements, so 402 millimeters by 85 millimeters, or 15 13/16 by 3 3/8, and then you just drill the holes for the bolts to go through. They're slightly offset on this box, because if you put them centered on the box, then they're going to be like right here on the edge on both the front and the back. There is your basic LItterbuggie. Now, this box is a Plano storage box. I got that from Home Depot. It is the box that I have found that has the best fit for the length and the width of the buggy. And yeah, it works pretty dang good. Although I will say that depending on what you want to do, you may need to make those screws just a little bit shorter, or the bolts just a little shorter. You could also feed them in from the top, but man, it'd be a pain. One of the nice things on using this box is that, say you're doing something where you want to recycle, you want to pick up like cans and trash, you can put 2 5-gallon buckets, one beside the other, and then just fill those buckets up. Or, you know, there's tons of ways to do this kind of stuff. Now, as far as using it goes, on the remote, now I don't have one of these, so I'm trying to go by memory here, but on the remote, you have this right here, which is your throttle limit. So if you've never driven an RC car, then you may want to put this down to, say, 50%. So you're only going to get 50% throttle, because this thing will go, I think it goes about 18, 20 miles an hour full throttle. These two here, the ST, that's natural and reverse, I believe, and throttle, natural and reverse. Now, on this, you can use it just like this right here. But if you put a bunch of weight into it, you're going to notice that you'll have issues turning, because the steering system is trying to pull that weight around as opposed to push it. So if you reverse your throttle, and probably the steering as well, and you drive it as the rear instead of the front, then even loaded down, it will turn a lot better like that. So just something to keep in mind there. The other thing is, this right here is your selector for your high and your low gear. I drive my rig all the time in high gear. I am very good at just barely pulling the throttle. And high gear gives you more battery life. If you're running this thing all the time in low gear, which if you're just starting out, that's probably a lot safer option. But if you're running it all the time in low gear, then that motor is turning faster to get you the same kind of speed, if that makes sense. If you're running it in high gear, motor is doing lower RPMs. It's using less power to get you the same walking speed you need. And then down the road, if you're doing something where you need to get up a hill or something like that, then you always have the option to flip it into low to get, you know, where you need to go. So just something to think about as far as actually driving and operating the rig. Now, the other thing here is that you want all the weight to ride on the axle. And on my rigs, I have printed a little component that goes in here that's about 20 millimeters tall, so that as soon as I put this on the ground, it immediately sits. Let's see if I can do it here by one hand. It immediately sits with all the weight riding on this axle. You still get your suspension, so if you're going over bumps and stuff like that, you're still going to get your travel and your suspension to smooth it out. But it will work a lot better if you loosen these springs all the way up, and even, you know, down the road when you want to make a modification, change those springs out to the lightest version of it, so that all the weight on this system is always riding on those axles. Trust me, a lot of years doing it. That's the way to do it. Guys, I hope this video helps you out. If you end up building one of these things, post it on the LItterbuggie Facebook or Instagram or the Reddit sub, and I hope these get out there, because man, this saves your back and lets you cover miles and miles. Have a good night.